podcast where we put you on the map. This is Ron Costa broadcasting live from the Mappable USA studios in Las Vegas, Nevada. And folks, today we're going to talk about a very interesting real estate project and a few other things. So before we get started, let's introduce Vicki Hutchmala from the World Talking Market. Vicki, how are you doing today?
I'm excited. Santa's coming pretty soon, and Vegas is the perfect place for him because it's Vegas during the holidays. You can't beat it. But I'm more excited about our guest today and our podcast, so I think we should start.
Exactly. And then we can go to the Santa run later on when we have hundreds of Santas on Fremont Street. How about that? Let's not forget
There
about
you
that.
Go, running down the strip.
Exactly. So let's introduce Ryan Garland. Ryan's the founder and chairman of Paradyme Investments. Ryan, how are you doing today?
Hey, Ron. Thank you guys for having me again. It's always an honor.
Yes, it's
Thank
a pleasure
you.
when you're on the show for sure. And, we've had you on before. It was always good podcasts, and you always have some good information. And I know there's a lot going on in your life and your business. So this is going to be a really interesting podcast, especially for people who are interested in real estate and some kind of original ideas. So before we get started with that, Ryan, maybe you could just give our audience another recap of your experience and how you got to be where you are right now.
Yeah, so kind of quick 30,000-foot overview. Started my business a little over 20 years ago in the conventional mortgage space. Really started in a call center, making phone calls and selling refinances. Ended up morphing into owning my own company back in 2008, prior to 2008. And once the market crashed in 2008, I ended up rubbing elbows with some high net worth guys that were buying up distressed assets as I was closing my mortgage company down. And that really opened my eyes into more of the investment sector, acquiring distressed assets, repurposing them, doing workout turnarounds, not only from a single family space, but more commercial. And that just kind of morphed as the economy kind of recovered, citing a lot of startups, how the SEC made some adjustments and raising capital and solicitation. And I had a huge network. I was kind of I like to think I was at least one of the guys that started big email marketing campaigns and establishing relationships in that manner, and then through social media and having a big presence there. So I was able to build exposure for very cheap, and that really kind of launched us to where we are today. And now we not only own a development company, but we do open up multiple funds. We do consulting. I do have a $100 million debt fund. I lend money out now to guys who are fixing and flipping properties. This is nationwide. We do ground-up construction financing, but we also develop, we have storage projects. I'm really big into man caves, which I know this is where you guys are going to want to go, and the storage projects. And then I'm also we have a $185 million winery in California. We have apartments in San Antonio. We built stuff in Denver. I'm looking at some more projects out of Nashville. So we've just kind of kept our head down and kept pushing forward and staying lean, staying mean. And now we have about $500 million in assets under development as we speak, about 700,000 square feet of storage. And we don't have any signs of slowing down. We're very methodical and strategic in this market. Obviously going through 2008 and working on distressed assets. So we're very careful on our approach moving forward. But now that's kind of a 30,000-foot overview. So now we have multiple departments, and we have some really good people working for us. And so we feel pretty blessed to be here. And again, thank you guys very much for having me on the podcast.
Yeah, and you
it's
guys
always our pleasure.
Areas, right? You're in California mostly, but you're out in Tennessee?
Yeah, so we ended up, I started in Southern California, so San Diego, Temecula, Orange County, LA, Rancho Cucamonga, so I kind of hovered around there my whole life, grew up in Riverside, and then I ended up moving our headquarters to Nashville my wife says 3 years ago. I keep thinking 2 years ago, but I am getting older, so she's probably right. So I think 3 years ago we moved our headquarters. We moved our headquarters there 3 years ago, and one of the best moves we've ever made. A lot of good talent there, a lot of demand, as you can imagine, just a lot of growth. But I go back and forth, and I like I was telling you guys before, I feel like I live in my suitcase because I have projects in Lake Havasu, Arizona, and California, and throughout the country, Denver and San Antonio, as I mentioned. So I'm hovering all over the place. But I like to call home Nashville. Feels like family there, and so I think we're going to end up moving out there full time as a whole family.
Yeah, smart move.
Oh wow!
You mentioned all the cities that I actually love. I just was recently in Nashville. I loved the place. It was incredible. And, you know, living in Vegas, people say, oh, Vegas, what a great party town, so much fun. Nashville just blows it away. It's just amazing. Especially if you're into any kind of music scene, Nashville is the place to be, no question. So,
and it's really any type of music scene too. You know, a lot of people think it's just country music. It's really not. It's morphing into all kinds of different, you know, So it's really pretty cool. And the energy's, you know, robust there. You have so many people moving there from, you know, up north, Chicago, New York, all over the country, really. And what I've realized is that people are coming out there to start a new life almost. You know, you're moving your whole world across the country in some cases, and you know, these people are just trying a little harder to establish relationships. So I could see that the networking side of things inside Nashville is extremely impressive. And so that has obviously helped our growth of our company, because our network is our net worth, right? And Nashville is very big into networking.
Yeah, it sure is.
Very nice.
I have a few friends in Las Vegas. This is just crazy. Well, I was talking to a few of my friends here, and they're like, oh, you know, I want to move to Nashville, but you know what? Nashville doesn't have a beach. I'm like, excuse me, you live in Las Vegas. You know, that's not a good.
You live in the desert.
You know, I live close to the beach, and I go to the beach like once every other year. You know, you kind of get to a point that you just don't go anymore if you've been around it. But that's funny. You're in Vegas, yeah. Well, I think the only thing in Vegas are the beach clubs, right? As far as the pools in Vegas, but it's a little wild there sometimes.
Yeah, but you know,
wave pool.
It's interesting though that in your bio before you were talking about distressed assets and everything. It really doesn't matter where you live right now in the United States or elsewhere. It seems to me, or a lot of indications point to, that we're going to be looking at a very disruptive commercial real estate market in the next couple of years. Do you agree?
You know, I feel bad sometimes. I kind of like throttle back because I never want to say anything and be wrong, right? But I will tell you my overall thought process on it. I think what happened was when interest rates were so low for such a long period of time, and there was such a boom during the pandemic of appreciation, I think that a lot of lenders went over their skis on leverage. So, for example, higher, you know, loan-to-value loans and so forth. And as the market shifts and rents or demand and costs have gone up so much on construction, you know, it's hard to make deals pencil. And so the projects that were, you know, are still under construction or, you know, newly funded, let's say a year ago, 2 years ago, when they're getting to a point of completion, to refinance those properties once you're cash flowing is almost impossible, right? Because the income isn't going to be there because your cost of capital is so high, so your debt to service ratio is going to be high. So I think we have about 3 years of a very unique market. I think a lot of projects are just going to have a hard time either getting off the ground. For example, concrete's going up $10 a yard, you know, in January. So costs aren't really necessarily coming down. You hear all these positive these positive things on, you know, the internet or, you know, through the news. And there are some positive attributes to the adjustments in the market, but there really aren't in some other cases. So I think it's going to be very unique, certain asset classes in certain locations. For example, California, in my opinion, is a mass. I mean, there's so many people leaving California. So projects that are going to be looking to get refinanced, you know, that are being built or, you know, close to completion, they're going to have a real hard time because the income levels from the people that have businesses are all leaving California. So you have more of a lower income, attainable income kind of population there. So it's going to be that type of stuff. Austin, Boise, you're seeing some of that migration right now. There's a lot of policy issues. You know, that type of stuff is going to drive the market too. So I think it's not going to be a 2008 overall, but I do think we're going to have some issues with certain asset classes, like, again, multifamily, things that are really, you know, some mixed-use projects, some high-dense areas. Secondary markets, I don't think so bad. I think I'm just a little biased because I do love secondary markets, just because it's from an affordable side. As the market gets worse, people go that direction, right, from affordability. And I can go on tangents forever, but I think ultimately, I think it's just going to be a very unique market. I think you're going to see different hats. For example, people who are very going, okay, the market's going to crash. I'm going to raise a bunch of money and I'm going to go buy distressed assets. I think those guys will still actually find them and do well. And then I think there's other hats where people are going, hey, look, I'm going to build on land and title and still, deliver lots to builders and we're going to still do okay. And I do believe that's fine too, because again, we're having, there's just not enough housing as well. So if you're building single family homes and for rent communities and so forth, I think you'll do okay. So it all has to do with the cost of capital, how you have your investment capital stack, what your predictions are for the future, being very conservative on your debt leverage. That's going to help, not have more issues down the road. But it's going to be a very unique market. It's not going to be 2008, though.
It's kind of like you need to develop creative adaptability. So when something comes at you that you're not expecting, you know what to do without having to, fall into the pit. But Ryan, tell us about what project you're most excited about that you're working on now.
Yeah, kind of a perfect way to piggyback into this. So, I grew up in Southern California, and my father used to take me out, since I was 6, 7 years old, to Lake Havasu for, lake life stuff and wakeboarding, and, skiing and so forth. And you guys are in Vegas. It's kind of the hub, between Southern California, Vegas, and Scottsdale, Arizona. Everyone kind of goes to Havasu for the lake life stuff. And so I grew up going out there, and, as I got older and had kids, and I would take my kids out there for vacations as well, I realized there was just such a demand for storage for boats. And the boat world, along with the RVs, just continue to become bigger and bigger. And, now multiple generations are going into, RVing and boating, where most people think more of the baby boomers were kind of the only ones buying RVs, and that's not the case anymore. With being able to work from anywhere, you have pretty much every generation buying, fifth wheels, RVs, boats, and so forth. So it's definitely a big multiple generational movement here. And so what I started doing was I looked at wanting to build storage for demand, and due to the demand there. And when the pandemic hit, as you can imagine, as the closures happened in California, everybody went to Havasu for recreational lifestyle. So the demand went up even more. And then that also drove people to move out of California, and going into these areas, Vegas, Havasu, other places in the country. And the list goes on and all the check boxes. But what we ended up doing is we're building now boat and RV storage man caves that are actually what we call condo maps. So they're actually each unit you can buy as an individual and then customize it the way you want it. So what I did is I kind of created more of a community feel. And with the way that I operate with my mindset and investors, I looked at it and said, well, if I can condo map these and sell them one off, then I have multiple exit strategies for my investors and for myself. So instead of having one big ticket at the end, $50 million, where one person can cash to come in and buy the whole thing as rentals, if I sell them off one at a time, my buyer's pool is much larger. But what also did is I also have a lot of people that are 1031 exchanging, so people that were in California that had rental properties that weren't getting paid rent during the pandemic from their tenants. People just started not wanting to deal with that anymore. And then also maintaining rentals is becoming more problematic nowadays. So a lot of 1031 exchanges into buying our units. And so really at the end of the day, we wanted to figure out a way to create a large net of buyers for our exit. And so what we're doing now is we're building, in essence, boat and RV storage, where you can get more of a smaller unit, just more, put your boat in there, leave it there throughout the year, or you can buy a unit, that's much larger. You can customize them. You can I have guys that are doing golf simulators in there, and, cigar lounges and all kinds of mezzanine build outs with sliding glass doors that go out the back, with the patio. The list kind of goes on what you can do. And that really took root. So we actually started started diving more into that, and the profitability has gone up over the last couple of years, given the market. The demand is still there, and so now we're basically building. We're now considered the largest man cave developer in the country. We're looking at building stuff, throughout, the more around the lakes and some other ocean areas. For example, Lake Travis, just north of Austin. Cherokee, not Cherokee, but Old Hickory and Nashville, certain areas where we want to build more of these. But yeah, we're now kind of building man caves for guys who want to put all their toys in there, or the ones that their wives are tired of their husbands being at home and annoying them on retirement, so they're buying them, something off site and say, get out of here, get out of my house.
That's a big problem.
Well,
yeah, that's a big problem.
I'll give you kind of a funny story. So right now I have 225,000 square feet being built right next to the Home Depot and Lake Havasu, and then I'm in escrow to buy 18 acres right next to that. I've delivered my phase 1 on my current storage, and what I did is I just kind of was geeking out one day, and I went through all of my purchase contracts, and I would say about 40% of my purchase contracts, there were women, and a couple of them were friends of mine. So I called them and I said, what are you doing buying a man cave? And they're like, well, Ryan, when we retired, my husband and I, we worked. We always would leave in the morning, kiss each other, leave in the morning, come back and have dinner and feed the kids and what have you. But now that we live together full time and we retired, like, I'm so annoyed by him. I need him out of the house. So, and this is not one. This is two ladies that I talked to that literally bought man caves just for their husbands to get away from them, and I just couldn't stop laughing. So it's a kind of a cool, because the entry price is so cheap too, so it's pretty affordable. And so anyways, yeah, so it's you got all kinds of different buyers, let's put it this way, for different reasons.
So Ryan, do you incorporate opportunity zones in your projects? Do you consider those, or does it matter?
You know what? Opportunity zones are actually really good. The issue that I've had was, and I know enough about the opportunity zone project, or, kind of land and the place somewhat rather well, but the issue for me was a lot of my current network, they don't want to be in for 7 to 10 years. As far as an investment, they really like to be in for that 2 to 5 year plays, make their accumulation, maybe make some income, and then kind of maybe make some moves. They don't really want to lock their money up for that long period of time. Ironically, the 2 projects that I just talked to you about in Lake Havasu, those are both in opportunity zones. And so I've really considered opening up a QOF, a quality opportunity zone, or a qualified opportunity zone fund, and then going after 1031 and, capital gains income and investments. But we just haven't gone down the road because even though there's that tax benefit, right, it wasn't as fruitful as investors that are really looking to get in and get out. They really rather get in, get out, than try to leave their money locked up for a long period of time.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah. So that was just kind of our findings. There are other investors and advisors that have, investors that are just looking for larger diversification, longer term plays. It just seems to be that my current network just isn't in that realm. Their mindset is more, in and out kind of stuff. Again, 2 to 4 years, if you will. So, like, for example, one of my projects right now, the next one that we're doing, which are actually what we're calling them is barn caves. So what we're doing is we're building the same identical man caves that we are right now. So same floor plan, same unit mix, as far as, larger man caves or what have you. But what I'm doing is I'm building them as townhomes now. So remember, each unit is for sale. But what I'm doing is I'm actually adding living quarters to it. So we're designing them as man caves and also like apartments or like a townhome. And I'm designing them and developing them in a way where you can get conventional finance. So it's really, really, that's huge, because obviously if I'm adding, living space, the cost is going to go up. Right now, my current projects, everybody has to buy them cash. You can't find financing. So if I'm going to increase the price, I got to figure out a way to allow financing and more in the conventional space. So our methods now are, same thing, man. This is basically, it's a townhome with an oversized garage, right? And then we are designing them as like barn dominiums, which is very trendy, and it's also much cheaper to build. So therefore, from an affordability component, we're adding that to it as well. So now we're trying to hit all the marks, where the demand for, having larger, garages, to having living space there, being able to acquire them and be affordable, and something that's modern and unique.
Yeah, you need to know your customers so that you can make the best of your projects, for sure.
Yeah, and I test, since I was telling you in the beginning, I have such a large following on social media, I kind of test the waters, right? I kind of just leak some information out and kind of do polls on social media, and even through our large CRM of emails of investors, I'll send out a test and say, hey, this is what Paradyme's thinking about doing or getting themselves into. What are your guys' thoughts? And, that was something we did prior to getting into this current project. And the feedback was 100% positive. I have, and as you guys know from being in in Vegas, Lake Havasu, there's no real middle income level. It's either low income or extremely wealthy people live there. So it's hard to find the workforce, right? So there's no apartments, no workforce housing. So the workforce is really hard to find. So ultimately small businesses, it's hard to open up a small business there because you just don't have workforce. So what the city and the state of Arizona are really pushing for the Lake Havasu location is attainable housing. And so if we can stay within that realm, because right now, for you to buy a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,700 square foot house, you're going to be anywhere between, 750 to 850,000 there. Well, if I can get my exit prices on these units around 500,000, 550,000, we're in the ballpark now, right? So that's really what we're trying to do to also even get incentives from possibly the state and the city for building attainable and affordable housing. Excuse me.
Oh, very nice.
Again, we're trying to marry up all the things that are relevant to have a good outcome for an investment, right? That's ultimately what we want to do. Is if it's a win-win for everybody involved, from the city, from the state, to investors, to the tenants, then the likelihood of our success goes up pretty significantly, right? So that's really ultimately what we try to do, is make it positive for everybody involved, and if it is, we'll probably be successful.
And I think you've hit the sweet spot.
Oh yeah.
I would say so too. Yeah, I would say so too. The feedback that we're getting, even from institutional investors, we have guys that are wanting to give us $100 million checks if these barn caves turn out well, because they can see that not only is it a trendy kind of development, but the cost to build is significantly lower, and it's because, in essence, they're manufactured homes. So instead of them being stick built, they're all steel built. So ultimately what we're doing is we're having the steel cut in a manufacturer somewhere, right? Manufactured somewhere else. And then they just come and drop it all off on big trucks. And then they just basically bolt it all together like a Lego set. So your labor costs go down as we're doing our grading and our foundation. That stuff can be in production. So by the time the foundation's cured, they can come right in, drop them up, and they can erect about 20,000 square feet every 30 days. So that's pretty fast. So that's a lot of units in 30 days. So ultimately speed helps save us money, right? The fact that we can start production while we're doing all of our horizontal improvements. So again, it's like a Lego set that saves a lot of time, and which is money, right? So all of these things that we're really trying to be, kind of forward thinking, utilizing innovation, technology, to, in essence, keep costs down. And I think if we do that, we can pretty much build these anywhere in the country. We probably would have a pretty good run at it.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah. So Ryan, it sounds like what you're talking about right now is really like that whole self-storage concept, and you just put it on steroids, basically, right? So
that's basically exactly what we did. Yeah, 100%.
So I'm curious, when you guys decided to take this route, did you use any self-storage developers or architects, or do you do this all in-house, or how did that whole concept work out to begin with?
So the architect that we're using, which is also out of Lake Havasu, they've done both, mostly boat and RV storage. What I try to do is find professionals in that asset class more than anything, because they're going to help hedge against risk too. So we didn't want to work with a group that's, hasn't done this before, but they have done a lot of self-storage as well. And because, again, the nature of the demographics out there in Lake Havasu, there was so much storage that not only was needed, but was being built. These groups, this particular group, it kind of had their ducks lined up. So not only from architect to engineering to, the manufacturer to all of that, they pretty much had worked with groups and done 3,000 units and, hundreds of thousands of square feet, millions of square feet really, before, we got involved. So they've kind of weeded out all the issues. So when we came in, we wanted to come in and be a little more forward thinking, meaning, what will make our product stand out over others, So with their experience working with all these other developers and builders, us coming in and hearing what those other guys did allowed us to make adjustments and shifts to create our own brand. and something that we thought would be more innovative and something that people would want more. And that's exactly what we did. In fact, and I like to kind of, I'm not a guy who likes to boast, but I hear through the grapevine that our product is by far superior in this area than any other developer, and any other builder. So that's a good feeling to hear. But we're also kind of, again, in that affordability side. So if you see something that you really like and it's top notch and it's the same price as this other guy's over here, you're probably going to go to the one that's a little nicer built for the same price. And that's really kind of what we try to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, and then you mentioned before that you do not have a opportunity zone fund, but there is a fund associated with this, right? Isn't there some kind of a barn cave fund that you created?
Yes, we did. So we have two different funds, ironically. So every project that we do, we actually have our own, what we call SPV, special purpose vehicle, our own fund. So every project has its own fund. That fund right now is for accredited investors only, but we are finishing our second Regulation A offering, which is for $75 million. And that is actually for non-accredited investors, because we have such a huge network. We have both accredited and non-accredited investors. And we didn't want to just close the door and say, okay, we're only going to work with wealthy people, right? I didn't come from that world. I grew up with a single parent, and, we were, what I always say, balling on a budget. But, I want to be able to open doors to other people who want to benefit on commercial real estate, investments and returns. So we did launch a Regulation A. Our minimum investment for that is $20,000, and for the investors that are more wealthy, their minimum is $50,000. And so we have two different funds that are associated to this particular project.
Okay,
through crowdfunding.
Right, but what is the fund or the investor actually investing in the fund? Are they investing in the top level ownership of this whole thing, or individual units, or what?
No, so everybody pretty much goes into the same boat with the same row. So they invest into the limited partnership. So you have your general partnership and your limited partnership. We are the general partner. We're the builder, the sponsor, what have you. So they all invest into the limited partnership. So pretty much it doesn't matter what your level of investments, whether you write a check for $1 million or write a check for $20,000, everybody's in the same boat. And it goes into the specific project. And that project is a ground-up construction project. So it goes into pollinating on all of the development of that project.
Okay, now what if I'm a RV owner, for example? I'm interested in one of these units. What do I buy out of that? Do I deed to the property, or what's my proof of ownership, or do I have any ownership?
Yeah, so let's say you just want to buy one once it's built. That's two different, kind of components, right? For example, you can invest. I actually have, believe it or not, I have investors that are investing, and what they want to do is they want to roll their gains, their profit, into an acquisition of one. And we've been able to structure that for them as well. But let's say you don't do that. You're not an investor. You're just someone who wants to buy and live in it, or, just, store your stuff. At the very end, right before we deliver our phase one, we will start marketing. We'll have our website. You'll have my broker, everybody who's associated to the sales side of it. And our buyers can work with that group to get into escrow to buy the unit. So it's a fee simple unit. So in essence, you're buying a regular home. It's a townhome. You get your own, electric meter, water meters, what have you, and you in essence, you own it. So it's going to be a true townhome.
So it's just as similar as a real estate transaction of somebody, let's say, buying a condo in Vegas. Then it would be the same thing.
100%. Yep. 100%.
Okay.
Yeah. So so it's pretty cool, because then you can also, again, going back, the way we're building it allows for you to be able to get, the buyer to obtain conventional mortgage. So you can go with an FHA loan. I mean, you can, for the most part, it's a single family home is what we're designing. What we are doing too, and I wanted to kind of highlight this because I think this is kind of important. Are you guys familiar with Lifetime Fitness, the big gym?
Sure.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Okay. Especially in Vegas. Yeah, by the way, I heard they're building a third one up there. That's how big of a deal it is. So I don't know if you guys know this, but Lifetime Fitness by trade is a family office that also builds apartments. So if you've thought about it, like if you look at the one in Summerlin, look at all the apartments that are around it. A lot of in Denver, Franklin, Nashville. There's a lot of apartments around them. A lot of times they also own those apartments. And what they do is now that, because of how big they are, they have a track record to show, well, if we build 1,000 units, we're going to give, a 25% discount. I'm using this as an example, 25% discount for a gym membership for any one of our tenants. Well, let's say 40% of the tenants end up getting a gym membership. Well, that's instant income, that they can track, showing when we build these units that many people are going to start generating income for the gym, right? Well, what we did is we're actually building a gym in a separate parcel. So look, one of these communities, as you guys know, Lake Havasu, Vegas, it's hot during the summer, right? People want a pool.
Yes.
So we wanted to build
kind of an understatement.
Right? It's a must out there, right? So what we're doing is, instead of building a community center with just a pool, what we're doing is we're in a gym and like a little movie theater, maybe like a little, office center, what have you. What we're doing is I'm actually, and the reason I'm doing it this way is because if I were to have a community center and a pool, I'm going to have about 150 units in my new project, right? And my HOAs are going to be really high. Well, if I care about from an affordability side, I can't try to sell you a house for $550,000, but your HOAs are $400 a month, right? That's not really the way it should be going. Well, the insurance policy for people, swimming and maintaining that and hiring people, your HOAs are pretty high. So I was like, how do I cut my HOA cost? Well, as I go, I'm out, I pretty much live there. I see the gyms that are out there. They need a better gym. And I have a guy who owns 30 locations throughout the country. And I started talking to him and I said, why don't I do this? Why don't I create a community center that's its own entity, its own parcel? It's kind of tied to the same project. It's tied to the community, but the community has its own private access and what have you. And whoever comes in from a public side doesn't have access to the private side. And so we were opening up a public gym that also gives, our existing owners and our community access to those amenities. So it will have a pool, it does have a gym, but a much nicer gym, right? And so forth. And what I'm doing is I'm in essence just building the shell. This particular gym operator is going to come in and build out the interior. So I'm saving money with not having to build the interior. And then they're going to just do a lease from me to lease that entire building, and they're going to manage the pool, and they're going to manage the entire facility. And now my owners of my community can go and have access to those amenities with no increased cost, but also with a membership with a 25% discount, as an example. Right? So anybody who buys one of my storage units, because I have 3 projects now going on out there, anybody who buys one of my units would get that same discount to go to those amenities. So we're really bringing in something that's more forward-facing, but something the community really wants. And, we believe that that's going to make it a whole lot more affordable, too, for our owners. So we're really trying to be more forward-thinking here. Yeah, so some cool stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. This sounds really excellent. Before I close this podcast out, though, I have a couple more questions for you. One would be, you talked about before, when you buy the unit, you can customize it any way you want inside. People are doing golf simulation, whatever it is.
Yep.
What if you don't know what you want? I mean, you guys have people that can build this stuff for them. If I come in, I say, listen, I want a bar area there to host Super Bowl parties, and you say, okay, well, we got the guys to build it, or do you have to come with their own builder?
No, we actually have guys that, we can refer to the owners to use. And a lot of times, to be honest with you, we only approve a handful of contractors. So we screen those contractors to come in there and make sure that they're the right caliber to have access to these units. Because there's a couple different components. One, privacy and security. We don't want just any contractor with any labor or worker running through the project. So we're screening contractors that are going to be doing good work, that have a track record in doing this, and that are approved with the HOAs. And so we can actually provide those referrals to the owners. So there's a couple different ways you can do it. While we're building it, we can go in there and start the build out of those units, to whatever it is they want. For example, like the golf simulator, we can add all of that: bathrooms, showers, washer and dryers, kitchenettes. I mean, name it, right? We can customize it for them while it's under construction, or once they've already purchased it and it's just a shell, they can then use one of our referral sources to come in and build it to their liking as well, whatever they feel.
Okay. And what's the status of the development in general right now? Do you have units that are ready for move-in or not yet?
Yeah, so our next phase on our Paradyme storage is being delivered in March, early March, like first week of March. So that's going to be 40 units that we're starting sales on literally next week. And then my building D, which is about 5 weeks out. That one will be delivered March, April, May. So between, March and May, I'm going to have units for sale, probably, and hoping I'll just keep rolling all the way through the year. So we're going to, our next phase is being released now for purchase, but you won't be able to move in until it's built, which will be in again, first week of March. Now, what I do tell everybody is that and this is one of the reasons why we're going down this road and building so many of them, is because before these buildings are completed, every one of my units are being sold out. To give you an idea, I thought I was going to sell these things at $145 a foot. I'm selling them for $175 a foot. So the demand is unbelievable. And so before I even deliver my buildings, they are 100% in escrow. So I tell everybody, if you want a unit, try to get in contact with us sooner than later, because they are going to sell fast. Otherwise, you're just going to go into the next phase or what have you, right? So.
Yeah, and the concept is so original too. You're going to see this pop up all over the place, I think, because this is something that is needed and it makes sense. So you guys have done a really good job on that. Mm-hmm. What if somebody wanted to get more information on the fund or the opportunity or whatever? How would they get in touch with you, or what's the best way to reach you for more information?
So what I would do is I'd have everyone go to our website, which is ParadymeInvestments.com. We spell it a little differently, and I'm sure you'll have it on the podcast, Paradyme, investments.com, and or call the main office line and let Brianna know, whoever answers, let her know what you're trying to accomplish, whether you want to invest or buy one of the units, and we'll put you in the right department. And that phone number is 951-903-5409, I believe. And so if anybody wants, to get access to either investing or buy a unit, they can just call or contact one of those that website.
Okay, yeah, this is excellent information. Ryan, my big takeaway from this podcast is that if I ever put a profile on Match.com for dating, I'm going to indicate man cave only friendly.
It's so funny. It's so funny. I'll go out. I'm in Nashville. I'm having dinner. And I meet people all the time. And they're like, "Oh, what do you do?" And it's so boring to say, "Oh, I'm in private equity and I'm a lender." So I started telling people, "Yeah, I basically build man caves," and they're like, "That is so cool." It's like I might as well say I'm an F-18 fighter pilot. It's like everyone just thinks it's the coolest thing ever. So
be different.
Yeah, I'm a man cave. Yeah, I tell everybody I'm a man cave developer. I don't even talk about private equity or I'm a lender. I don't even say any of that. So I let the conversation just monetize from there now. It's pretty funny.
That's great.
You're going to have to print up new business cards, right, with that. But
man cave builder.
But Vicki, what did you think about this podcast today? It was pretty cool, right? Do you have any other questions or comments before we sign off?
I remember, Ron, when we first met Ryan at a conference some few years ago, and I was so impressed with Ryan because he had like an innate ability to inspire his team around him, and they would do anything for Ryan, whatever it was, and it was so impressive to me. But now, these few years later, I see where Ryan has been able to take that spark of possibilities and turn it into like a bonfire of accomplishments and success that he has to live out of a suitcase, which sounds bad but is really a good thing. And now I'm even more impressed with Ryan than I was before. And that was quite a bit, because it's hard to impress me, Ryan, but oh my God, you're right there at the top of the list. So kudos to you. Kudos to you.
Well, it's cool is a lot of those people too that you met are still with me. They have,
Exactly.
That's probably one of the reasons, and I appreciate that comment. It's hard because I have 3 kids, 2 in high school, and it's hard because I'm not home a lot, but I remind myself that I'm doing this not only for them, but for the people that trust us. I have 400 investors, and
Absolutely.
Every single one of them have a testimony, and they've had their hardships in life, and I've established relationships with them. And in fact, we're about to post on YouTube probably a 20-minute testimonials from friends, family who have known me for 20 years, that will not only talk about our character but the company and what we've done and accomplished, and that they've invested with us and they've made money, and what have you. And we're kind of starting this new trend of testimonials. And hearing people just continue to believe in what we're doing is really what allows me to get up every day. You talk about waking up with a purpose. We have, I tell everybody, one of my favorite investors, her daughter died on the operating table of an open heart surgery at the age of 9. And she ended up investing her life insurance payout with us 100%. I didn't even know until, later down the road, I had a conversation with them about where the money came from, and, they're a little bit about their story. And I'll tell you what, that was about 4 or 5 years ago, and that changed everything for me, because, once you start hearing people's personal life and their hardships and losing loved ones to cancer and divorces and just all the things that life throws at you, and, how they are investing this money, they can't really afford to lose it, And I wake up every morning going, I'm not doing this for myself anymore. I'm doing this for a bigger purpose. And I'll tell you what, feeling alive and feeling like you have purpose, I can honestly say I'm one of those people that can write a book on feeling loved and needed. So it's a really pretty amazing. I feel unbelievably blessed. I try to share this as much as I can. And, I speak at events, and a lot of it's more in this realm and mental health and so forth. But, I really appreciate the kind words, because those people still are with me to this day, and I call them my forevers. I mean, they'll never leave me. It's funny, because if they're having a bad day, I have a bad day with them, or
exactly.
Energy-wise. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, exactly. But, you have to walk with integrity and take the high road, and then everything follows along with you because your heart is open.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's that same concept. If everybody benefits, the money will follow. Pretty much every big influencer talks about that. Tony Robbins said, if you can make other people money, the money will follow for you. If you can help other people, then the money will follow. And there's so much truth to that. When you're young and you're trying to make a living and you're chasing it, then it's hard to think that way, because you got to kill to eat, But once you kind of get to a point where you believe in yourself, you have faith, you've done it long enough, it's just consistent, that it's just a numbers game kind of thing, then what happens is you start transitioning into becoming more kind of the 2 ears, 1 mouth person, right? You're more engaged with these individuals, and you're hearing, what matters to them. And then you're able to identify if this is a good fit for them or not too, and that's where you really want to be. I want people to know what they're getting themselves into. We provide high levels of transparency, not only from software and tracking systems to audits, but we have like on-site cameras that every one of our investors can log on 24/7 and watch that project being built from anywhere. So my investors, I don't get phone calls for updates. They already get all the updates automatically, and they can see for themselves. So, trying to be more forward thinking in that really goes a long way too,
Well, Ryan, I was young 30 years ago, and then last night I blinked, and here I am today. That's how fast time goes, right?
And they always say the real wealth is in the relationships in which we build, right? So
that's right.
That's exactly correct.
So,
exactly correct.
Thank you for having me on. I think this is the 3rd time I've been on with you guys, and you can see even this relationship continues to add value on both sides, and that's all I can ask for. So I truly appreciate the opportunity, and I hope you guys are the best. Happy holidays.
Thanks. And
it's our absolute pleasure.
Sounds good, Ryan. Thanks for being a guest on the show today. Vicki, thanks for co-hosting this episode. And folks, you're listening to the Mappable USA podcast at mappableusa.com. If you go to that website, scroll down on the homepage, you'll see all our syndication sources. Just pick the one you like best and subscribe. You'll never miss another one of our episodes. And if you want to be a guest on the show like Ryan was today, there's a guest tab there. Fill that out. We'll see what we can do about getting you on the show. And if you like what you heard, just send us an email at info@mappableusa.com, or just leave a comment on whatever page you're listening to this on right now. So thanks for your support. Thanks for listening. We'll get you next time with another Mappable USA podcast. Have a great week, everyone.